unacceptable. How are we supposed to catch the bank burglar if we don't even know how he committed the burglary?
Inspector L. Elephant, the burglaries occurred in dark vaults, where it would be impossible for anyone to see anything. In fact, the areas were so dark that even the CCTV cameras don't show anything.
Just what Captain Boffo Bison says. It was so dark in there that even my flashlight was blanked by the darkness.
And that's not the end of it, Inspector L. There is no window or door through which the burglar could have entered, except for the main vault doors, which would need an explosive to open. But the CCTV cameras do not show any explosions or light of any kind.
Just what Captain Boffo Bison says. It's almost as if the burglar was a ghost.
Sergeant Conelips Crocodile, we can't have this kind of talk in here. It is enough that the media is spooking out the general public without us policemen adding to the nonsense.
But what do we do, Inspector L?
Go to Alice, the farmer's wife. She's the only person who can solve the case.
Inspector L, you know the police department does not approve of her methods.
Captain Boffo, we have no choice. I will take the case on one condition.
What's that, Alice?
I will treat the burglar a lesson as I please.
As you please?
Yes. Does the police department agree?
Inspector L said we have no choice. Go ahead, Alice. Solve the case.
Aha! They are blind mice. That's how they see their way in the dark. And they are tiny, so they do not need to enter through the door or window. They simply crawl through the drain pipes. Stop!
Who's there?
It's Alice, the farmer's wife. We're caught.
Help! Oh, look at those 3 mice. Look how they run.
3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. See how they run, see how they run. They all ran after the farmer's wife, who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did ever you see such a thing in your life as 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice?
Oh, how strange.
3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. See how they run, see how they run. They all ran after the farmer's wife, who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did ever you see such a thing in your life as 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice?
Look at those mice run.
3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. See how they run, see how they run. They all ran after the farmer's wife, who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did ever you see such a thing in your life as 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice?
Once upon a time, there lived a very successful businessman named Mr. Bill King. He had a team of very intelligent horses and very crafty men that worked under him. Day in and day out, Mr. King's horses and Mr. King's men worked, building new inventions every day and making tons of money for Mr. King. One day, Mr. King made an announcement to the world. I have created a button that can undo anything. It's called the undo button. With this, just by pressing Ctrl and Z, I shall be able to undo anything, take back kingdoms, and even turned back time. The world was horrified. Mr. King had the power to undo everything and bring the world back to the Dark Ages.
Call Mr. Egbert Dumpty immediately.
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. King has invented something terrible. We must think of a way to stop him.
Mr. Egbert thought for a while, and then he snapped his fingers.
Aha! I've got it! Mr. President, arrange for a public meeting between Mr. King and my son as soon as possible.
But your son, are you sure?
Trust me, Mr. President.
Mr. Egbert and Mr. King met at the City Hall at noon the next day. Mr. Egbert's son, Humpty, stood with him, looking quite nervous. There were reporters and news channels and live bloggers noting every move that happened to move. Humpty was afraid to even pick his nose, even though he felt such a terrible itch inside. The whole city had gathered to watch, and everyone wanted a selfie with Mr. King and Mr. Egbert. The president sat at a distance, watching the proceedings quietly.
Mr. King, you claim to have invented a button that can undo everything.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Egbert.
If you fail to undo something I ask you to, will you give up the button?
Mr. King thought for a bit, because he never did anything without thinking.
Yes, indeed. But what if I do manage to undo what you ask me to? You shall become the new president!
Everyone gasped in horror and turned to look at the president. The president looked shocked only for a moment and then nodded, because he trusted Mr. Egbert.
That's settled then. Son, would you sit on that wall, please?
Everyone gasped once again. Eggs and walls do not get along well. But Humpty obediently walked to the wall and climbed up and sat on it, because he too trusted his father, Mr. Egbert. Humpty sat uncomfortably for a while, and then wobbled and wobbled some more, and finally lost control and fell down to the ground. He smashed into 100,000 pieces. Everyone gasped yet again. There seemed to be an astonishingly large number of gaspings going on that day.
Mr. King, I would like to see you undo this.
Undo this!
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great ball. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great ball. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great ball. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again.
This is impossible! I give up! I shall stop the use of the undo button immediately!
Everyone cheered this time, marking an end to all the gaspings that day.
But what of Humpty?
Humpty, son, put yourself back together again.
Humpty moved his arms and, picking up the pieces, put himself back together again in no time. Everyone gathered there, clapped and cheered in delight once again.
You see, nothing is impossible, but you have got to do it yourself.